Hi, I'm Ephraim Elliott, and you've just been placed on alert. Welcome to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Mr. Jack Foster, who is our community activist, former alderman, former mayoral candidate. Welcome today to my show, Mr. Foster.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Yes, sir. Now, for all of those who don't know Jack Foster here in Jefferson County and beyond, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, born in Eudora, finished high school in Lake Village.
Okay.
Entered the military, went to the U.S. Army for 3 years, served in Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Once leaving Vietnam, I entered school here at, well, then it was AM&N, which is now UAPB. Left here, got married, moved to Illinois, stayed in Illinois for a number of years. Got involved in the food service industry, spent 25 years at middle and upper management with the likes of McDonald's, Pizza Hut, Po Folks Restaurant. So I went to loop on food service. And then in '89, the family and I moved back to Arkansas, and we ended up here in Pine Bluff.
Okay.
And upon my return here, Pine Bluff had some challenges that I had some problems with some of the things going on here. And that's how I became an activist, because of the fact that if you sit there and do nothing, nothing changes.
Right.
And that's a capsule of Jack Foster.
Right. Now, you said when you moved here in '89 that Pine Bluff had some issues. What kind of issues did you see in Pine Bluff?
Having lived all across the United States, one thing that I found immediately was that it appeared that the civil rights movement skipped over Pine Bluff. It seemed to me like, as a matter of fact, when I first got here, there was an issue going on where they were trying to float a bond issue to redo the Sanger Theater. And you had people, especially in the African American community, were still jumping ditches. I couldn't understand why you want to float a bond to create monies to do the Sanger Theater, which back in the day we had to go to the back door.
Right.
When you were going to allow people to still jump ditches. I had a problem with that, and that's when I first really got involved in this community, was about that issue. Okay.
And when you say float a bond, for those people who may not understand it, what does that mean? Float
well, they wanted the city to do a bond to create some funding
to pay for
the Sanger Theater. And I said, no, that don't fit. I'm talking about the priorities are skewed.
Right.
So we need to do something different. And they voted on it, but it did not pass.
It didn't. Now, when you say the single theater, how is that theater important to Pine Bluff and our African American community?
I don't know how it's important to African Americans, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
I don't know how it's important. It's historical in nature, right?
Okay.
But part of its history, to me, celebrates segregation, because of the fact that we had to go to the back door or the side door, whatever the case may have been at that point in time. Okay, so for you to want to maintain that tells me you want to maintain what the Sanger was about all the time.
Well, I mean, could Pine Bluff just want to preserve one of its historical landmarks in Jefferson County? You think it's about that, or is it the thinking in which you say that the system itself wants to bring us back?
Well, when you talk about preserving buildings, and when you look at, and this is kind of a little bit off tap, but if you look at our school districts here, at one time we had 3 or 4 black high schools.
Okay.
We have none now. They're all gone. You had Townsend Park, it's gone. Merrill, it's gone. Southeast, it's gone. Coleman, it's gone. And was replaced by what? You think about that for a minute. So part of our history has evaporated, simply because of the fact that those that were in power at that time decided that our history should not be preserved.
Okay. Is it that our history should not be preserved, or were we just able to commingle? And do we have enough student base to even support an African American school or a European school, or why would we even want something like that?
Well, I'm not. Well, you got to look. You got to look at what's happening here. I'm not saying that there's enough African Americans in this community to have a black school. And basically all of them right now are predominantly black anyway.
But is that what we want?
Well, that's what it is. I'm talking about, what that says to me is that there has not been, there may have been some, but in smaller numbers. There has not really been black flight in this community. Okay, there has been white flight. And that's why our school system is where it is now. It's either white flight or someone decided, a family decided that, well, I don't want my kids going to those schools. You know, that's how Jefferson Academy came about, which is now W.T. Cheney. They put that school out there because of the fact that there were people in this community that were white that didn't want their kids going to school with blacks.
Now, is that, I mean, are you sure that's totally accurate, or did people just move in a different community to kind of expand Jefferson County?
No, I'm talking about it. There's no use in us sitting here pity-patting about that. We all know what that was about. It happened all across the state of Arkansas. It was just not indigenous to Pine Bluff. It happened all across the state of Arkansas. Academies popped up everywhere. An academy back during that period of time meant what? White only. How many black folks you know attended academies back in the day? Zero.
Is that zero here in Jefferson County, or is that?
That's across the state of Arkansas.
Okay. Wow.
Because in essence what it was is that there were no public funds in academies.
Okay. So is the state responsible for funding academies?
No.
It's private dollars.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that. When we come back, we're going to talk about private dollars and donation in our community. We'll be right back.
They say that when you're facing extreme danger, your life flashes before you. If you think that's sad, consider facing it before you even have enough life to flash before your eyes. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Deaths and injuries can be prevented by using the right car seat. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to know what is appropriate for each age and size.
All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Millions of people are affected by disaster in America. And we're right there, providing food. With more than 200 food banks, reaching communities all across America. Donate now for immediate relief and long-term recovery. Every dollar helps provide food for disaster victims. Help now at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Mr. Jack Foster, who is our community activist here in Jefferson County and around the state of Arkansas. Mr. Foster, when we left on break, we were talking about private donations in dollars and in education. Now, you mentioned about academies being popped up around in Jefferson County. Now, if a person or people want to pull their resources together and do an academy, I mean, what's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. It's their money. They do what they want to do with it. The only thing that I said to those folks that do that in the case of academies was just be real about it and say what that was all about. Why was that academy created?
Maybe.
Don't just say because of the fact that we want our children to get a better education. I'm not buying into that back in that day. That's not what it was about. Okay, what it was about is that they did not want to attend school with African Americans. It's just that simple.
So it wasn't about them wanting a better education and them maybe thinking that the public school was not applying or that had the skills to give a better education. It was about them just moving. Is that what you're saying?
It was about them not wanting to attend school with African American, period.
Now, why would that happen? Because they've been attending school with African Americans for years, even back in the 60s.
I know. Well, I understand. In Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But it was very few.
Okay.
A lot of them ran. And it was, and let me clarify that. It was not the students that was attending those academies that was fueling that. It was the parents of those students that fueled that. I need to make that clear.
Okay.
Those kids were following what their parents wanted them to do because their parents was from a generation that still believed in segregation.
But those kids who are now adults now, as you said, they were not fueled in that. So if that's the case, I mean, we should have a more racial harmony in our community.
We should, but I don't think it exists here in Pine Bluff. I don't think we're there yet.
Why not?
Because of the fact that there's still people in denial. Okay, there's still people that suffer from the drum major instinct. That I've got to be out front. I've got to run this. Just by the nature of my birth, right? I have to be out front. I've got to be in charge of you. Okay, we still have some of those thoughts here. And the flip side of that coin is you have African Americans that think the same way. They feel like, hey, I need whites out front telling me what to do. I refuse to leave the plantation. I got to stay here. I cannot leave.
Okay.
I've got to stay here.
Well, let me ask you this. And Arkansas and Jefferson County, we've had our first African American mayor. We have the majority African American council, which you were a part of the council as well. We have legislators that are black. Why hasn't Jefferson County Pine Bluff changed then?
Because of the fact of what I said earlier. A lot of people still on the plantation, including black folks.
So even if we have the majority,
they don't have a true African American agenda.
Okay, now you have to explain that.
Okay.
What is a true African American?
Okay, one that is about furthering the advancement of blacks in this community at all levels, okay?
So, well, let me ask you this. If something that's just geared towards furthering African Americans, isn't that the same as something just geared towards furthering white Americans?
No.
So anytime that you're pushing the agenda with one group and pushing the agenda with the other, isn't that the kind of the same?
No, it's not. Because of the fact that you got to realize that we were, as a people, were in slavery so long. You know, we had been lapped so many times by so many different issues, okay, that we didn't understand what freedom was all about, okay? So we were behind then, and we're still behind now.
Okay.
And what I'm saying to you very simple is this, is that we're not, the playing field is not level.
Okay.
The playing field is not level yet. I don't care what nobody tell you, the playing field is not level.
So how do we level the playing field?
The only way we're going to level the playing field is by the people that have the power. And in this community, that's financial power, right?
Right.
And that's not African Americans. Until at such time, the financial community, right, meets the African American community halfway, we're going to forever be where we are. It's about finances at this point. We have the political power. We can elect anything we want in this county. Right. Black, if we want to. We can elect a white if we want to. We showed that when we elected a white mayor.
Mayor Hollingsworth.
That's right. So what I'm saying to you, we have the political power, but we have no financial power. Now, what you have to understand, those two things go together. Political power, financial power. They're in the bed together. They're inseparable. Okay, now, when you have a situation where the white community controls the finances and control the political side, right? African Americans ain't got nothing coming, period. Because we don't have any power, political or financial. And the way I look at it right now, in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, we're out of the box. We don't have any financial power. We don't have any political power because we gave it up in November, okay? And one thing that you have to always remember, and if you go back and if you look at this country and blacks through the years, and one thing they will tell you, you never give up power. We gave up power at the polls in November because of the fact that we had black leadership in the mayor's office, right? And blacks in this community felt like he did a poor job. So they decided it was time for him to go. okay? And I sort of agree with that. But the bottom line is that we had a host of blacks in that race, and we could not find one that we could embrace, because there was a lot of people that got out and supported the white candidate because she interjected things like Christianity in her race. Okay, you know how black folks are. You know, we're all religious and we get emotional, and when you start talking about those kind of things, you capture our imagination and our mind. So if she speaks in those terms, we're going to say, oh, she's okay.
Well, didn't our black candidates have the same opportunity to speak the same thing and talk about the same thing? Economics, Christianity, education.
Sure.
Everybody had the same opportunity.
But let me get back to something that I said earlier. And that is that there's still black folks feel like they got to stay on the plantation. And they did that in November. Trust me, they did that.
Well, we're going to go on break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the plantation mentality that you're referring to. We'll be right back.
Hey, you going out like that?
Yeah, why?
Well, what would the neighbors think?
I see you! Come look at Mr. Feather. Look what I have. Mr. Bird, remember? Bark, bark, bark. We're just playing. We're just playing. I'm trying to get you out of here.
Even still.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Now it's time for This Week in Bad Stats.
Bad stats?
Horrible stats. Here goes. 260.
That's how many runs were walked in with the bases loaded last season.
Wow, very good. Here's a tough one, though. 3 and 4.
No idea.
That's the number of kids who witness bullying. 3 out of 4.
Not a good stat.
No, it's not, but that can change. Kids want to help, but they don't know how. You can visit stopbullying.gov and give them the tools they need to help prevent bullying.
There are plenty of safe ways kids can help at stopbullying.gov.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all working with United Way for a million little reasons. The kids of our communities, to ensure their academic success all the way to graduation day. You see, it takes about 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a kid becoming one or the other could be a professional athlete, or it could be you. Studies showed the earlier we get to kids, the better their chances. So become a United Way volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and make a difference in the life of a child, for the life of that child.
Give. Advocate.
Volunteer.
Live united. Join your favorite NFL players. Take the pledge. Go to unitedway.org.
Welcome back to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Mr. Jack Foster, who is our community activist around the state of Arkansas. Mr. Foster, when we left and went on break, we were talking about a host of different things. And one of the questions that I have for you is, I mean, for between 8 to 10 years, we had an opportunity as African Americans to run our community the way we want to. Because you mentioned, you said politics and finance go together. Well, we had the power, and because we're 85% African American, we can elect and choose to spend our money anywhere we want to. So now, having the financial power and the finances, I think, as you said, go hand in hand, and we had an opportunity to do that. And in the opportunity, we still chose to elect someone of a different race to move us in a different direction. So if we choose it, the majority of us, then what's the problem with that?
Well, you know, being an African American myself, I'm talking about,
well as me.
Yeah. We're human, just like anybody else, and we make mistakes. And I'm saying the election that we had in November when we elected Ms. Hollingworth was a mistake. And I think that's a mistake that will be rectified. Now, let me say something to that. When you look at me the way that you're doing, is that I firmly believe that based on some of the things that have been happening recently at City Hall and her demeanor, okay, when the city attorney comes out and basically says that the mayor's lying on her and that she has a total disregard for the truth, okay? Now, when those kind of things start happening, right, and you start having those kind of character flaws, that says to me that it may be time for us to realize that we elected somebody different, right? But we still didn't get what we needed.
But isn't that the same thing that people were trying to say about Mayor Reedus? I mean, he was African American. People were saying that there was a difference of opinion and different aspects of him in the community. We even had some African American people who said, even though he's black, he doesn't represent us. So what's the difference? Because a person's skin color, I don't think that makes a difference. I think that what makes a difference is what I've said and what we've talked about is economics.
Are you trying to say to me that color doesn't matter? Are you trying to say to me that skin condition is irrelevant in this city?
What I'm saying is that what makes a difference to people in this community is economics.
Oh, that's fine. I understand economics, and that gets back to the financial side of that. Okay? And what you have to simply understand is this, is that you tell me how many true black businesses that we have in this city. Okay? Now,
so are you trying to tell me is that you trying to say that African American people don't have the opportunity?
I'm saying when it comes to the financial community and African Americans getting loans, particularly from these banks in this town, we got a problem. Now, we can get a loan for an automobile or a house, but you go down there and start talking about getting some monies, and you can walk in the door with a viable business plan, okay? And what I'm saying to you is that, and I'm gonna go on the record on this one, I don't think African Americans, right, get the same or be utilized the same standard of allowing loans on minimum qualifications like they do other folks.
Well, what about our UAPB Inc.
They don't have money. They're not a financial institution. All they can basically do, right, is prepare people to go to these financial institutions and ask for financial help, okay?
But that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
To be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared. And then when you walk in the door and you put your business plan on the table and they say, oh, well, no, that don't really meet the requirement. I'm gonna give you a prime example of what I said. I had an opportunity some years ago to talk to a banker in this town. And I asked him about loans to the African American community, especially business loans. And he said to me, well, we don't do a lot of those. I said, well, and the next question I asked him, I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, could you tell me the largest loan that you wrote off last year? And he said, oh, it was about $1 million, a farming loan. They just wrote it off. They loaned it, it wasn't paid back, and they wrote it off. Now, you stop and you think about that for a minute. $1 million and they wrote it off. I'm looking at it from the point of view, we could have put 10 African Americans in business and gave them $100,000 apiece to get going, right? And if it had failed, they could have did the same thing that this bank did on this one farm loan and just wrote it off. We don't get that same opportunity. That's what I'm saying to you. It is I don't care who's in the mayor's seat. If we are not about the financial end of that, right, we're going to continue to be where we are. You know, we don't have a lot of black businesses in this town. We don't.
Is that because we choose not to have a lot? Or is it because, you know, the system itself isn't allowing us to?
I think what it is, I think that there are a lot of African Americans community that want to go into business. They have good plans, but they just don't have the people in position that want to make loans to them. Okay?
Well, if they have
okay. See, there's something called marginal loans. You can get a marginal loan, okay? A lot of time, African Americans in this town, their credit got to be impeccable. You know, you understand what I'm saying? They got to meet 100% plus guideline to get monies, especially for a business. Okay? So what I'm saying to you, until at such time that the banking community gets involved and start allowing loans to African Americans for businesses, we're going to continue to have some of the same problem we have here. Let me explain that to you. Because of the fact that if you have a black business, that dollar is going to basically turn within the black community, okay? If the majority of your businesses in the community is white, okay, that dollar is basically going to turn in the white community. And let me explain that. If let's say it's a white businessman, he don't get his hair cut on 13th Street, okay? He don't go to a bunch of the soul food restaurants in this town.
Well, some of them do.
Some of them do.
Okay.
You know, and that's probably a reactionary thing because of the fact that, you know, black folks been cooking for white folks forever and a day. That's nothing new. So, but what I'm saying to you is, at some point, The financial community has to come together and decide that they want to allow marginal loans to African Americans to rebuild their city. I don't care what the mayor does down there in that office. Until at such time funding is freed up, right? African American business people and prospective business people in this community are not going to get there.
Okay. Well, again, I want to thank you for coming and expressing your views in reference to that. And I want to let you know you have just been placed on alert.
Thank you.
All right.